Thank you. Welcome back to the first CSN Cyprus Maritime Supply Chain and Vessels Performance Forum. Before we continue, I would like to thank our sponsors. The silver sponsors are the companies Acheon, Akti, and Aribatec Marine. The event sponsors are GMCG and Palau International Ship Registry. During the break, we will have the coffee break sponsor is the company Copyjet, while at the end of the conference lunch sponsor is the company Glasgow International. Supporters are Cyprus Shipping Chamber, Cyprus Marine Club, CIMEPA, Wista Cyprus, Young Ship Cyprus, Institute of Chartered Ship Brokers, and the Clean Shipping Alliance. The communication partners are Meso Strategic and the business event calendar. The media partner is Maritime Economies magazine. The forum is under the auspice of the Maritime Cyprus. Lemissoler is the charity sponsor of today's conference that supports the Young Heroes Foundation. The second panel discussion on the topic, building resilient, efficient, and sustainable maritime supply chains in the era of post-pandemic. How far is the industry willing to go begins now. The moderator is Dr. Iliana Christodoulou Varotsi, Senior Legal Consultant and Lead Industry Trainer. The panelists are Elias Constantinou, Chief Operation Officer, Acheon Akti Navigation, Marina Kroupenidou, Fleet Supervisor, MCTC, Petros Monogios, Director, Lemissoler Navigation, Dr. Thalis, Assistant Professor in the Department of Shipping, Cyprus University of Technology, and Theodore Chouliaras, President and CEO, Upoil Tankers and Training. Please come to the stage.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And please allow me to welcome the panelists of the second panel on strong, resilient, and efficient maritime supply chains. So let me ask Professor Thalis to sit next to me, please. And then Mr. Petros Monogios. Please, Elias Constantinou. The names of the companies were mentioned before. Theodore Chouliaras, last but not least, our Marina Kroupenidou. Please, let us sit and we're ready to attack the second panel. To attack, yes. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Dr. Iliana Christodoulou Varotsi. Once again, I'm very pleased to be in Limassol for today's conference, Cyprus Shipping News Conference on vessel performance and maritime supply chains. We're here to explore strong, resilient, and efficient maritime supply chains. And I was thinking, while coming to Limassol today from Nicosia, that in actual fact, we have an interesting highlight, which indirectly is relevant to today's presentation. I was thinking of Kamares water pipes, open-air water pipes, somewhere between Larnaca and Limassol, that were built during the 18th century in order to ensure clean water, not only for towns, but also for ships and ports then. So mention was made before of a map dating to 1907, if I remember well. And during the first panel, mention was also made of the shift from sailing to steam. We can add one more highlight from a historical perspective to the attempt in discovering relevant, current, topical aspects of maritime supply chains. And let me say that each component of maritime supply chains contribute to smooth cargo flow. As such, they present certain risks and challenges. Some of them were mentioned before, like delays, congestions, disruptions, epidemics, geopolitics, limited insights into capacity. We are here to see how the industry reacts to these challenges and also think about the future. The industry is working on these challenges, and it does so under the watchful eye of the regulators. Without any delay, let me ask Thalis and Petros about the capacity that we have or we don't have in knowing available capacity so as to explore whether maritime supply chain at present ensures a good insight into the available capacity so as to be in control of costs and lead time. Do we achieve this, Thalis?
Okay. I should state that I'm coming from an academic background, so I think Petros will give a much better insight to the actual industrial side of things. I think the short answer is no, because we have seen too many disruptions over the last few years, but we are at a much better position today than we were before. So when it comes to capacity, how do we define capacity? Knowing exactly, having visibility of all our assets, having systems to monitor the performance, and seeing how much is their utilization rate, so that we can actually do some kind of optimization in the flow of goods. We have seen so many times in the recent years that there are many disruptions ending up in a bottleneck. Maritime supply chains are essentially intermodal supply chains. So if we look at a port, something goes wrong at the gates of the port in the hinterland connection, it propagates and it leads to delays at the vessel as well, which has environmental impacts that are very negative. So I think we have better visibility, we have better data, but there are problems in the sense that some of these data are forming data silos, so they don't communicate with, across different nodes of the maritime supply chain, and this leads to issues. But I think we have the capacity to get the data, and if we were to share the data, we should be able to improve reduce the vulnerability and increase also the resilience of the maritime supply chains.
Petros, Monogios, do you agree with this understanding of the insight that we have in capacity at present?
I'm afraid I agree with the no. It is proven through the years that shipping is quite capable to control costs and times. But, and in our days, even more companies, as mentioned, is adopting new technologies and using data more efficiently. But I believe personally that more and more is not in our hands. And there are many reasons, starting from within the industry. How many ports manage to increase their capacity and reduce waiting times? Out of our industry, they named before problems with the war with Ukraine, at Red Sea, Panama Canal heavy delays, all these affecting costs and times, of course, and not in our hands.
What investments are needed, Elias, Constantinou, by ships in order to enable ships to deal with ESG and current constraints, the constraints in force?
Well, Iliana, it's only natural that ESG would come knocking on the door of the shipping industry with its, let's say, global companies and fleet accounting for almost 3% of greenhouse emissions annually. and especially with the International Maritime Organization focusing more on the environmental topics. I guess ESG also being a key factor in the Poseidon principles as well, and evolving in landscaping in greener shipping finance will play, and is playing a huge role basically in the day-to-day decisions of the owners and the executives. Just as I would just like to stress a point here of the amount of capital investment that is going in by, that funds to companies for ESG with ESG criteria. That's increased apparently by about 170% between 2015 and 2021. There are also, furthermore, like Moody's and all, Bloomberg and MSCI that are establishing special rating standards for ESG criteria. So it's very important, let's say, investing in ESG for shipping. Types of investments that were mentioned also on the previous panels would be the fuel efficiency and emissions reduction technologies, alternative fuels, renewable energy, ballast water treatment, and waste management as well, and also crew training and welfare. So basically, I would say that investing in ESG initiatives and compliance with regulatory constraints would mitigate environmental and social risk, but also help ships comply to the constraints and also contribute to long-term sustainability and resilience in the very competitive shipping market.
In recent years, we had the experience of scrubbers and the entailed costs. We are at the era where we experiment with rigid sails. Theodore, Chouliaras, from your perspective as a Greek operator, what investments do you think are needed by ships to deal with ESG and regulatory constraints?
Okay. That was not a question on my list, but I like it. Yes, okay. Of course, first of all, I would like to agree with my friend here that there are regular investments should be made in ships like eco machines, try to be the hybrid in our fuels, and etc. But I will tell you again something that we discussed in Athens, and I'm very distressed about this. In order to follow the ESG rules, which means to make a report and say to everybody, look, I was improved my social, my environment, my government attitude, so clap, yes, give me awards. So finance will be much more easier for me because Poseidon principles force the banks not to give loans cheap but expensive to someone which is not green. So now, something that I would like to invest in is how to fool the system or make my vessel seems to be green. Seems to be green and not green. And I'm telling you why. Like I said in Athens, shipping is an over-regulated industry. Regulations for everything, like my friend said here. Regulations for emissions, regulations for ballast water, regulations for anything. One regulation that we do have is this CII rating. What a CII rating is that every vessel is categorized according to how dirty, let's say, is, to the worst category, which is E, then is D, C, B, and A. So normally, I should invest in a vessel category A or B. But it's so difficult to keep it in this class and so expensive to purchase one of these. And even if I have a vessel in B, it would be very much interesting to make it A, so I will not have good results in my ESG reports. That makes me prefer to invest in a vessel lower category of how green it is. Because if I invest in a SEC category vessel, it will be much more easier to make it B, and everybody, you will give an award and say Thalis, instead of invest in a green eco vessel and keep it there. And this is wrong, because in the name of ESG, I'm locked not to fight for the climate, but fight for my survival of my country. So, as an operator, unfortunately, I'm investing in low categories green vessels, where I will improve it during the years, and I will always be the good guy according to ESG, because without ESG, I cannot have finance. Without ESG, I cannot have a good charterer. Without ESG, I cannot have, I don't know, anything I wish.
This is an interesting approach, and you mentioned how heavily regulated the shipping industry is. Let me say on this point that states are also concerned by increasing regulatory constraints. It suffices to think of maritime single window, which was adopted by the IMO, and we also have constraints on the EU level, requiring the electronic exchange of information during port calls. This is a regulatory constraint which is important for maritime supply chains and is on the shoulders of states. Let me also add, in the context of traffic facilitation, the absolute need to make sure that when a pandemic occurs, the ship and ports will have to continue to be operational. This is another regulatory requirement which stems from an amendment of facilitation convention. This is to say that when we refer to regulatory constraints which impact on private stakeholders in the shipping industry, we also need to consider those constraints which have an influence on maritime supply chains and involve public stakeholders, states in their different facets. On this point, I would like to ask Elias and Petros the following point. We also understand that strong maritime supply chains rely on strong fleets, which are ready to operate with all these regulatory constraints in the context. Are ship owners, Petros and Elias, and seafarers adequately prepared to grasp this challenge?
May I start? Yeah.
Yes, please.
I believe on this are two categories of ship owners today. Those thinking more conservatively, do business as usual, continue ordering vessels with conventional fuels. And the other category that they see that decarbonization is one-way road, prepare themselves from now and their fleets. Of course, ordering vessels using green fuels, and always having the big question in the back of their mind if this extra investment is going to be paid at any given time. If you ask me which of the two is correct, I'm afraid I'll be biased to answer because we are in believers of the second category. So for me, that's the... But the matter here, I believe, again, and again, with capital letters, ICE demand regulations are on the soft belly, the ship owners, and not in the whole chain. At least till now, maybe slowly is going to charge. If a ship owner knew that in a couple of years, let's say, green fuels will be available, of course, wouldn't be any question what to order. It will be easy. If knows that he could invest in cold iron technology on board the vessel, if knows that ports, okay, a number of ports will support that. Do you know any port supporting that? I can say no. Has anyone pushed ports to do that? No. But everybody's eyes on ship owners. Coming to seafarers, yes, I believe those ship owners belongs to the second category, start training, understand that seafarers should be trained accordingly. They start doing that. It's a long way to go. But I'm afraid that when the time comes and the trained seafarers will be imminent, we will start stealing each other.
It is true that we have a considerable number of uncertainties. You have mentioned alternative fuels, and in the previous panel, mention was made of the uncertainties surrounding the use of alternative fuels. Scientific issues, operational issues, safety-related issues, issues which have to do with the training of seafarers, safety. Elias, returning to the question, do you think that ship owners and seafarers are adequately prepared?
Well, Iliana, a strong maritime supply chain, of course, relies heavily on ship owners, and seafarers being adequately prepared to navigate the compliance requirements for both the current challenges and the future ones that are coming. Well, basically, I would say I would say about these four categories that firstly, I agree with Petros that there's two types of, let's say, ship owners, the ones that are prepared to go ahead, and of course, these are the ones that maybe have also the financial capacity to do things, and there are those ones who are a little bit reluctant, who might not have the financial capacity to do so. But basically, I would say investment in technology and innovation would be something that a lot of ship owners are looking into, okay, and basically to keep in line with regulations as well. Seafarers training and support, which is quite important, and of course environmental sustainability. Okay, progress has been made in all areas. Challenges remain there, as always. There's room for improvement, of course. Factors such as, like I said before, budget constraints, regulatory complexities, cultural differences can impact the preparedness levels. But let's say continuous training and investment in technology and collaboration amongst stakeholders, that's very, very important, I would say. And adherence to the best practices are essential.
We shouldn't forget about who will be training the seafarer of the future.
Correct.
I mean, there is an assumption that the one providing education and training has experience over something, so as to be in a position to explore this with the trainees. So with all these parameters, which are uncertainty factors, who will train the seafarer of the future? We have some developments also concerning the legal frameworks. STCW is under scrutiny at present, etc. These are true challenges for the future. We also have external factors like climate-related factors affecting maritime supply chains. And I would like to ask you, Theodore, Chouliaras, what about the climate-related aspects of maritime supply chains at present?
Okay, yes, it's true. Climate change affecting now, for sure, the balance of the maritime supply chain. 3 examples. The first and most obvious, the weather. Since the climate change have been in that confused, the weather is always confused. And weather can make me, as an operator, either to change the route from one port to its other, or to burn more oil, so emit more emissions, because I'm fighting the weather to go to one port to its other. That's a problem for climate, for my pocket, because more emissions, more penalties, more EUAs, more all of this. So weather, yes, it's a problem caused from the climate change. Another one, the rising or falling of the water levels. Look what happened to Panama. In Panama, the waters fell down, and only 20% of the vessels that was passing now, they're passing the channel. This is a disruption of maritime supply chain due to climate change. Hurricanes. Many hurricanes, much more hurricanes now than 5 or 10 years ago. Every time you have a hurricane in the west coast of the US Gulf, the refineries closed, so there is no production, problem for the maritime chain, supply. There is no transportation, problem for the maritime supply chains, and this is due to the climate change.
Absolutely, and all these concerns are also reflected in legal instruments internationally in force. I'm thinking of energy-related issues, and more specifically about unwanted species, Ballast Water Management Convention, biofouling. This is also related to the discussion. I know, Theodore, that you are an expert in hedging strategies. How do you correlate the impact of regulations and geopolitics on hedging strategies with regard to emissions?
Okay, generally hedging now should be something that all in the shipping industry must imply. Hedging is a combination of financial tools using, for example, the derivatives contracts of the Baltic Stock Exchange, Χρηματήριο Navalon, or to the emission stock exchange, Χρηματήριο Ripon, or to the fuels stock exchange, Χρηματήριο Καυσίμων. Those financial organizations provide tools that every hedging strategist like we are can help the other in the shipping industry to be protected from those problems. In emissions, it's mandatory that now I must calculate my emissions, and for example, if my emissions are 50,000 metric tons, I have to choose either to pay 5 million euros, because it's 100 euro per ton of the penalty, or to go to someone like us, open an account in an emission stock exchange, try to purchase EUAs, and hedge the difference. Now, what's the art of hedging, like you said? The question is, okay, should I buy now that the price is 56? Or maybe goes 45? And what if it goes 85 again? What's the right price? Nobody knows. Can I lock the price? Yes, you can. How? With hedging. Can I not pay the money now? Not the 5 million or the 3 million now. Yes, you can give a deposit and pay at the December. How? With hedging. So, since this mandatory regulation makes all the shipping companies to pay huge money per vessel, hedging strategy helps them to find the ideal price and the ideal timing of paying, because this is, one way or another, a huge cost which is added, unfortunately, to the shipping financial balances.
And briefly, do hedging strategies also present an interest with regard to new technologies and alternative fuels? The associated risks, I mean.
The concept was that we oblige you to pay penalties or go make hedging, and those money, I'm going to collect them as IMO, as European Community, as I don't know who, and make research and development to find solutions for the future for alternative fuels. I don't agree. Of course we must be green. Of course we must find solutions, but not to this system, the ETS system now, which is only a tax payable, yes, collected a solution with nothing serves the heart of what we exactly want to do, which is to be more green in the future.
Okay, thank you, very interesting. And Marina, you had the chance to share your thoughts with us before about maritime supply chains, and in light of your experience as a service provider company to the industry, there are no strong maritime supply chains in the absence of strong human element. In light of the experiences that you had during the global health pandemic, how do you see the issue? What is the added value?
Thank you, Iliana. To be honest, before my involvement with the shipping industry, I never fully appreciated the crucial role of the seafarers who are actually making the international trade possible. So by being now in this industry, and certainly within the field of MCTC, I fully respect and appreciate the hard work which is done on board the vessels. If we consider that every vessel is operating as a small organization with different departments within, we need to have somebody ashore, another human who is well trained to guide these people in each department with their skills, with the technical knowledge. And I believe that a department itself, as the galley, with the chief cook, struggling to feed and achieve all the requirements of different nationalities on board, of different preferences or habits whatsoever. So having well-trained personnel ashore to guide these people, I believe that it will assist significantly in achieving sustainability and making the human element more
visible.
strong and visible. Yes.
And since we are in Cyprus, I think it is fair to say that Cyprus has been among the first countries that had qualified seafarers as key workers. So Cyprus has contributed effectively to this very important question, which had turned into a humanitarian crisis. It is commonly asked what are the lessons learned from the global health pandemic. So the question is not novel. Nevertheless, it is important to listen to the perspectives of each practitioner in the shipping industry. So Elias and Petros, your understanding of the lessons learned in light of the global health pandemic that we experienced recently. Let us start with Elias, please.
Well, I would say the pandemic highlighted the vulnerabilities of seafarers who faced prolonged contract-restricted shore leaves and challenges regarding medical care and, of course, their mental health. There was crew changes crisis as well. health and safety protocols that were, let's say, implemented and are well adapted now. Okay. Of course, digitalization and remote operations. Pandemic accelerated the adoption, let's say, of digital technologies and remote monitoring solutions, remote inspections, virtual training programs, and establishing channels of exchanging information. What COVID-19, the pandemic, has highlighted is the indispensable role of the human element ensuring the resilience and sustainability of the supply chain.
Petros?
Yeah, I fully agree with Elias, but for me, the most important lesson we receive from almost all governments around the world is that seafarers are third-class people, not even second, third. As Elias mentioned, we had cases, people, seafarers on board the vessels, 1.5 years, not be able to be repatriated to join families, a vessel going around with a dead body because no port accepting to receive it and repatriate it. And the pity is that these unknown heroes make vessels working like a clock during pandemic, so all of us to have the needful. And there is not a matter of respect to them, it's a matter that they are human, and these are the drivers of this industry, or one of the drivers. Yeah, I have to be fair here that, as you mentioned, a couple of countries accepted early enough crew changes, Cyprus one of them. But at the end, I believe that it's our mistake, that it's industry mistake, that we haven't managed to have common language and power, and allow us to create as problem, not only in these crew changes. Before, many heard, Captain Adami mentioned some. And this, I believe, is our problem.
The international community, not the shipping industry, society in general, was taking for granted both the role of shipping and the role of seafarers. What about labor shortfalls, Ali, which impact on strong maritime supply chains?
And we've seen it during the pandemic as well. And I'll give you a couple of examples. So during the pandemic at the ports, there were issues with contagion and there were not enough people working to relieve the ships. So that led to bottlenecks. It's not only at the ports and on the seaside with the seafarers, it's also on the logistics side. So we saw after Brexit, there were issues that there were not enough people able to drive in the UK because they were importing people to do this work. And as a result, there were bottlenecks also at the UK ports. At the same time, labor shortfall, it also has to do with the training. So right now, we're talking about decarbonization, we're talking about alternative fuels, but the discussion on how these people are going to be trained to be able to do all the processes during bunkering is yet remains to be seen. Petros mentioned shore power before. I know for a fact that in California it's mandatory, but a lot of times the ship cannot connect to the grid because the person that is able and licensed to plug the vessel is absent at the time. So they invest in all this and they cannot use the technology. They're paying for this money. The ship owners are protesting that I'm paying all this money and I'm not even using it. So I think there are a lot of issues with labor shortfall, but we have to start from the ground. You need to make these jobs more attractive. So you need to give them better training, first of all, with a collaboration from industry, academia, all the marine academies. You need to acknowledge their role and their importance. Everybody is ordering stuff online now, and they expect it to come the next day, but they don't understand what goes on behind the scenes. And you need to improve the working conditions, give better benefits, and basically be proactive. We saw all these disruptions in recent years. We have to learn from this. And everybody needs to be part of this discussion.
You have mentioned working and living conditions aboard. Decent living and working conditions are regulated by MLC, as we all know, and we have considerable industry best practice. Now, concerning attracting seafarers and considering addressing the problem of shortfalls, let me say that, and I had the chance to say this also at the Cyprus Shipping News Conference in Athens, we somewhat fail in creating an attractive narrative towards younger generations so as to attract seafarers to this profession. Very rapid port calls, some of the conditions of the work aboard, the experiences after the pandemic have not facilitated the task of attracting younger generations to this highly exciting profession, which is also well remunerated, at least in most cases. Marina, do you share this perspective?
Yes, I totally share this perspective. And to be honest, mentioning the generations, because in the past we used that the seafarers were looking into good wages of this industry. And now with the new generations, the seafarers are not looking for a mere wage, but they're looking for good environment while on board, facilities, good connectivity with the family members while on board. So all these benefits, let's say, surrounding this will help them to define if they want to go for this work opportunity. So they have also the information now to know what to expect in the sea. So they ask for more.
They ask for more, and they pay a lot of attention to the core values which characterize an organization, which was not in the culture before. I think it is nice to bring this panel discussion on strong, resilient, and efficient maritime supply chains to completion with the last question addressed to you, Thalis, about autonomous shipping and how it can impact on maritime supply chains. Now, let me say that as many of you are aware of, we have important developments concerning autonomous shipping. We had IMO scoping exercise, whose role was to scrutinize the suitability of international regulations as to whether they can regulate autonomous shipping or whether we need extra provisions or whether we need to shape the existing provisions. So this IMO scoping exercise has been completed, and we have working groups on the level of the IMO working on autonomous shipping. We often use the word autonomous shipping, but we don't necessarily mean the same thing. There are at least 4 degrees of autonomy, depending on whether we have people aboard or not. In any case, we are about to see whether autonomous shipping will generalize or not. And we are also waiting for international regulations. So, what is your understanding of the role of autonomous shipping on maritime supply chains in the near future, Thalis?
I would say that it's not in the near future, from my understanding. Before I joined the PAC, I was in Denmark, and we were working on a Horizon project from Europe on autonomous barges, and up in Norway and in inland waterways in Belgium and Holland. Basically, what we try to do, we try to compare business as usual with autonomous barges fulfilling these transportation requirements. What we saw is that, of course, it's a much more expensive technology, but it will affect in numerous ways. Even if we manage at some point to reach the last level of autonomy, that you don't have anybody on board, there are things that could be beneficial, environmentally speaking. You can go slower in theory, so you have less energy requirements. But then there are issues about cybersecurity that you have to take on board. What happens in case of a stranded ship in the middle of nowhere? How can you actually access it? It's going to be more expensive. You will also have issues with labor because already people will be afraid that they're going to lose their jobs if this ever comes to pass. At the same time, you will need more jobs, more white-collar jobs on programming, on planning, on control centers, monitoring the whole situation. So it's going to be a game changer, but it's not, I don't see it happening in the very near future. It will start with some small barges on inland waterways where it's easier to do it, but it will be a game changer if it eventually comes to pass. The good thing is that it can also change speed requirements. You don't need to worry about having people on board the vessel for weeks or months per voyage, but it's not going to happen overnight, and it's going to take a very slow approach to increase the penetration rate of this technology. But it will be more expensive, more environmentally friendly, but there are a lot of legal aspects as well that I'm in no position to comment on that need to be resolved. So it's really work in progress.
And it is interesting to know that in the British context, for example, we already have the UK Code of Practice, Industry Code, which provides a lot of recommendations about the registration and use of autonomous ships. This is very interesting. And since you also mentioned Denmark, if I remember well, it was in 2017 that the Danish Maritime Authority had had commissioned a report about the regulations of the future concerning autonomous shipping. So there are many interesting developments. In any case, we could talk about maritime supply chains for hours, since maritime supply chains cover the sea, the port, hinterland, and networks. Nevertheless, I know that we need to bring the panel to completion, and I would like to thank Cyprus Shipping News for giving us the chance to explore to the limit of our possibilities this fascinating topic. And let me also thank each one of you for your contribution to this discussion, and also the audience for listening to us. I don't know if we have the chance to take a few questions, one or two questions. If anyone would like to comment on any aspect, or yes, please, Anna Burgos.
No, it's not a question actually. It's just a point I wanted to add. Being involved on the insurance side of things and on the risk management of things, and all. Petros touched upon the ports briefly, but I think it's not just the ports as such in terms of facilitating, say, compliance or other technical aspects. It's states and jurisdictions in general that actually become stumbling points for shipping, and we see it. I mean, obviously, the whole industry experienced it with COVID and how they treated crew members, etc., etc. We experience it every day with casualties and how jurisdictions respond to casualties. We've got a ship that was in a collision. It had nothing to do with, the blame was not to our ship, and yet the Chinese are holding our ship because the other ship has been sanctioned, and we've been held there hostage for 2 months until the MSA decides what to do. We had a ship hit in the Red Sea, and yet all the eyes were on the crew members, and thank God everybody has mobilized the whole crew rescue operation very fast. However, when it came to let's salvage the ship and let's bring it into a safe port, we had a country like Djibouti not accepting us because they were afraid that we're going to be a wreck or there was going to be a pollution. And you have an owner who is doing everything to provide everything possible to the crew and the families after an incident like that. Mm-hmm. You've got an owner who is trying desperately to salve that ship, even though she's probably a CTL, but still a duty of care to the cargo. So we don't really see how casualties and delays from jurisdiction actually do affect the supply chain as well. You have ships in jurisdictions that have their cargo on board for 2 months waiting, not just because of congestion, but because there was a minor incident and some court doesn't know how to deal with it. So that's the invisible side of things, I believe.
The invisible side, which is part of the reality, because even though the international community strives to harmonize everything, in actual fact, we always have discrepancies. And the dialogue between jurisdictions is an illustration as to the challenges that can be raised. Okay, I think we are done, so thank you very much for this contribution. Ευχαριστώ πάρα πολύ. Ευχαριστώ. You're most welcome. Thank you. Please, Marina. And the next, over to you, Sotiris. Thank you.